Here's part 1 of the story in about 800 words, written in simple English with a third-person style. Left naked on ice by her stepmother, the alien woman discovers love with the man who rescues her. The cold hit Gia like 1,000 tiny knives. She opened her eyes to find herself lying naked on a vast field of ice. The pale blue sky above her seemed to mock her situation. Her stepmother Hana had finally done it. She had gotten rid of her. Gia was not human. Her purple-tinted skin and slightly larger eyes marked her as a member of the Lumi race, a proud and advanced alien species known for their diplomatic skills across the galaxy. The daughter of a respected diplomat, Gia had enjoyed a life of privilege until her mother died 5 years ago. Her father's marriage to Hana had changed everything. Hana, with her perfect smile and cold eyes, had 3 children of her own. She saw Gia as a threat to their future. "We're going on a special mission," Hana had told her that morning. "Your father thinks you're ready to learn more about our diplomatic work." Gia had felt proud. Finally, a chance to prove herself. She had boarded the small ship eagerly, not questioning why her father wasn't coming along. When Hana offered her a drink, she took it without thinking. The next thing she knew, she was waking up here, stripped of her clothes and communication devices. "Stay calm," Gia whispered to herself, her breath forming small clouds in the freezing air. The Lumi could survive in cold temperatures better than many species, but not forever, not like this. She pushed herself up, wincing as her bare skin touched the ice. Looking around, she saw nothing but white in all directions. Hana had chosen well, a perfect place for an accident. Gia hugged herself, trying to keep warm. She had to think. Her people's resilience to cold came from their ability to slow their metabolism and control their body temperature, a skill that had evolved on their home planet's harsh winters. She focused, slowing her breathing and heartbeat. It would buy her time, but not salvation. Eventually, her energy would run out. The winds picked up, sending ice crystals stinging against her skin. She began walking, though she had no idea which direction might lead to safety. Her feet quickly became numb. Each step was a struggle. "Father will notice I'm missing," she told herself. But would he? Hana was clever. She would have a story ready. Perhaps that Gia had decided to visit friends or take a private retreat. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, it would be too late. As the alien sun began to set, casting long purple shadows across the ice, Gia felt despair creeping in. The temperature was dropping rapidly. Even with her species' adaptations, she wouldn't survive the night. She stumbled, falling to her knees. The pain barely registered through her numbed skin. Maybe it would be easier to just rest for a while. Close her eyes. A strange noise cut through the howling wind. Gia forced her eyes open. There, on the horizon, was that a light? It was. A small, steady glow, too regular to be natural. Where there was light, there might be shelter, people, help. With renewed determination, Gia pushed herself up and staggered toward the light. Each step was agony, but the light grew steadily larger. As she got closer, she could make out shapes, buildings of some kind, boxy and practical, clustered together. A settlement. Not abandoned after all. Hana had lied. This wasn't some uninhabited ice moon where Gia's disappearance would never be questioned. This was a colonized world. Gia felt a spark of hope, quickly followed by fear. What kind of beings lived here? Would they help her, or would they see her as a threat? Lumi had encountered many species in their travels, but relations were not always friendly. The buildings were closer now. She could see they were made of metal and synthetic materials, designed to withstand the harsh climate. Above one structure, a flag flapped in the wind, the unmistakable emblem of a human outpost. Humans. Gia had studied them. They were physically weaker than Lumi, but their emotions ran deep. They could be kind or cruel, depending on the individual. Would these frontier humans help a naked alien woman who appeared out of nowhere? She had no choice but to find out. Her body was giving up. Each step became harder than the last. The lights from the settlement blurred as her vision began to fail. Just as the main building came into clear view, Gia's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the ice, her consciousness fading. The last thing she saw was a door opening and a figure rushing toward her through the snow. Dae Kim stomped his boots against the metal floor of the research station's entrance, knocking off clumps of ice. The storm was getting worse. His final, routine check of the perimeter sensors had taken twice as long as usual. All he wanted now was a hot drink and sleep. As he hung up his heavy parka, the emergency alert system suddenly blared to life. A proximity sensor had been triggered on the eastern boundary. Probably just another ice drift, muttered Sun, the station's senior researcher, barely looking up from his data tablet. Dae frowned at the monitor. The heat signature was unusual, too concentrated for a natural phenomenon. I'll check it. Out. In this weather? You just got back, Sun argued, but Dae was already pulling his gear back on. Something doesn't look right, Dae insisted. I'll be quick. Outside, the wind howled like a living thing. Dae switched on his helmet lights and trudged toward the anomaly. The research station was one of only 3 human outposts on this remote ice planet. They rarely had visitors, especially unannounced ones during a storm. 50 meters out, his light caught something on the ground. At first, he thought it was an unusual ice formation. Then he saw the unmistakable shape of a body. Hello? He called, rushing forward. Can you hear me? The figure didn't respond. As Dae knelt beside it, his shock nearly sent him stumbling backward. It was a woman, completely naked, with purple-tinted skin that marked her as clearly non-human. Despite the deadly cold, there was no sign of frostbite. Her chest rose and fell slightly, still alive somehow. Without hesitation, Dae pulled off his outer thermal layer and wrapped it around her. Then he lifted her surprisingly light body and began carrying her back to the station. Sun! Mina! Medical emergency! He shouted as he burst through the door. Both researchers looked up, their expressions changing from annoyance to shock. What is that? Mina asked, her medical training already kicking in as she rushed to help. She's not human, Sun observed unnecessarily, keeping his distance. Species unknown. She needs help, Dae snapped, carrying the alien woman to the medical bay. She was abandoned out there with nothing, not even clothes. Mina hesitated only briefly before switching on the medical scanner. Body temperature dangerously low but stable. Heartbeat, unusual rhythm but strong. Breathing shallow. The alien woman's eyes suddenly fluttered open. They were larger than human eyes with striking gold irises. She looked at each of them in turn, then tried to speak. The sounds were melodic but incomprehensible. The universal translator, Dae suggested. In the communications room, Sun crossed his arms. Protocol states all alien encounters must be reported immediately to Earth Command. She'll be dead by the time we get approval to help her, Dae argued. We don't know what she is or why she's here, Sun countered. She could be dangerous. The alien woman seemed to understand the tension, if not the words. She weakly raised a hand in what looked like a gesture of peace. Mina made the decision for them, grabbing a medical blanket and covering the woman properly. I took an oath to help anyone in need, human or not. While Mina worked to raise the alien's body temperature, Dae retrieved the portable translator device. It was rudimentary technology, designed for first contact situations, but it might help. When he returned, the alien woman was sitting up, wrapped in thermal blankets. Her eyes followed his movements with clear intelligence. He activated the translator and spoke slowly. My name is Dae. You're safe now. The device hummed, processing his words, then produced a series of musical tones. The alien woman's expression brightened with recognition. When she replied, the translator struggled but eventually produced, Gia. My name, Gia. Danger. Still follows. Who left you out there? Dae asked. The translator worked for several moments on her response. Mother, not mother, wants me. Gone. Sun stepped forward. We need to report this. Tomorrow, Day said firmly. She needs rest first. That night, Day couldn't sleep. He kept checking the medical bay where Gia slept peacefully. Something about her vulnerability mixed with her obvious strength touched him deeply. How had she survived conditions that would kill a human in minutes? More importantly, who had tried to murder her by leaving her naked on an ice planet, and what would happen when they discovered she had survived? 3 weeks passed since Gia's rescue. The research station, originally built for just 5 people, felt smaller with their alien guest, but no one complained. Gia had proven herself, helpful, intelligent, and eager to learn about humans. Day found her in the observation dome early one morning. She sat cross-legged on the floor, watching the sunrise turn the ice fields into a sea of diamonds. Her purple skin had regained its healthy glow, and she'd adapted well to wearing the spare clothes they'd modified for her taller frame. "You're up early," Day said, offering her a mug of hot tea. They had discovered she enjoyed the taste. Gia took the mug gratefully. The universal translator, now upgraded with basic vocabulary from her language, hung around her neck. "On my world, we have a saying," she said, her voice melodic even through the translator. "The quiet dawn holds truth that busy day cannot see." Day sat beside her. "We have similar sayings. Do you miss your home?" Gia was silent for a long moment. "I miss what I thought it was. Now I understand it differently." She had been teaching them about her species, the Lumi. They were a society built on complex political alliances, where family connections determined everything from jobs to housing. Emotions were seen as weaknesses, best hidden away. "Your people are strange," Gia said suddenly. Day laughed. "How so?" "You help without expecting payment. You show feelings openly. You argue with each other but still work together." She shook her head. "When Sun disagreed with helping me in my world, that would mean death for me." "Is that why your stepmother tried to kill you?" Gia nodded. "Hana married my father for his position in the diplomatic corps. My existence threatens her children's standing. It is logical in our way." "There's nothing logical about murder," Day said firmly. "That is the most human thing you have said," Gia replied, with a small smile. Their conversation was interrupted when Mina burst into the dome, her face tense. "We just received a transmission. A Lumi diplomatic vessel is approaching. They say they're searching for a missing diplomat's daughter." Gia's mug slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. "No, they cannot find me here." "It's a rescue mission," Mina explained. "Isn't that good?" "Not rescue. Finish what Hana started," Gia said, her words coming fast. "She will be with them. If I am found alive, she loses everything." Day helped her up. "What do you want to do?" "Hide me," Gia pleaded. "Please." "We can't just hide you," Sun said when they gathered in the common room. "This is an official diplomatic party. Refusing them access would violate interspecies treaties, and turning Gia over violates basic human decency," Day countered. "I have a solution," Mina suggested. "We don't hide her, we disguise her as human." The plan was simple but risky. With specialized makeup to cover her purple skin tone and dark contact lenses to hide her unusual eyes, Gia could pass as human from a distance. They would introduce her as a new research assistant who had arrived on the last supply ship. As they worked on her disguise, Day noticed Gia trembling. "We won't let anything happen to you," he promised. "In my culture, we do not trust easily," she said. "It is seen as foolish, but I trust you, Day." "Is that foolish?" He took her hand. It felt warm against his. "No. Sometimes trust is the wisest choice we can make." The Lumi ship would arrive in less than 12 hours. As night fell over the research station, Gia practiced walking and speaking like a human. Day watched her, feeling a strange ache in his chest. In just 3 weeks, this alien woman had become important to him in ways he couldn't fully explain. "What if they recognize me?" Gia asked as they finished preparations. "Then we'll face it together," Day said simply. That's what humans do. The Lumi ship landed with precision on the ice field just outside the research station. Its sleek silver hull gleamed in the morning light, making the human buildings look crude by comparison. Day, Sun, and Mina stood at the entrance, waiting to greet the visitors. Behind them, Gia stood with her head slightly bowed, disguised as a human researcher named Jin. A ramp extended from the ship, and 5 figures descended. 4 were clearly guards, tall Lumi with expressionless faces. In the center walked a striking female Lumi whose elaborate clothing marked her as someone of importance. That's Hana, Gia whispered, her voice barely audible. Sun stepped forward. Welcome to Earth Research Station 12. I am Dr. Sun, lead scientist. The Lumi woman nodded slightly. I am diplomatic envoy Hana. We seek information about my stepdaughter, Gia, who disappeared during a diplomatic mission near this sector. Her voice was smooth and practiced, but Day noticed how her eyes darted around, scanning everything. We've seen no other Lumi in this area, Sun replied truthfully. When did she disappear? 3 weeks ago, Hana said, her face a perfect mask of concern. Our ship developed a malfunction. We needed to use escape pods. Gia's pod's tracking system failed. We've been searching ever since. Mina frowned. Escape pods have multiple backup systems. How did all of them fail? Hana's expression hardened slightly. Technical matters are not my expertise. May we come inside? The cold is uncomfortable. Once inside the station's meeting room, Hana displayed a holographic image of Gia. This is my stepdaughter. Have you seen her? Dai studied the image, pretending to look carefully. No, I haven't seen anyone like that. We would remember seeing a Lumi, Sun added. You're the first aliens we've encountered here. Hana's eyes narrowed as she looked at Jin standing quietly in the corner. And who is this? Our new research assistant, Mina said quickly. She arrived on the last supply ship. Hana approached Gia, studying her face. You seem familiar. I've never met any Lumi before, Gia replied, keeping her eyes down as they had practiced. Hana reached out suddenly, touching Gia's cheek. Her fingers came away with traces of the makeup they had used to hide Gia's natural skin color. A clever disguise, Hana said coldly. But not clever enough, stepdaughter. The room froze. The Lumi guards moved to block the exits. What is happening here? Sun demanded. These humans have interfered in Lumi affairs, Hana stated. They are harboring a fugitive. Fugitive? Dai stepped between Hana and Gia. You left her to die. A serious accusation, Hana replied smoothly. Do you have proof? I am the proof, Gia said, wiping away more of her makeup. You drugged me, stripped me, and abandoned me on the ice. You thought no one would find me. Your word against mine, Hana smiled thinly. And I am a respected diplomat while you are merely a troublesome child. We have evidence, Mina announced suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. Our perimeter sensors recorded everything. The time, location, your ship's energy signature. Even thermal imaging of Gia's body on the ice. Everything. Day shot Mina a grateful look. They had no such evidence, but Hana didn't know that. Uncertainty flickered across Hana's face. You're bluffing. Test us, Sun challenged. Our station transmits all data to Earth Command. Attack us and the evidence goes public. The Lumi High Council would be very interested to learn how a diplomatic envoy attempted murder. The standoff stretched for several tense seconds. Then Hana's shoulders stiffened. Guards, we're leaving, she ordered. You can't take me, Gia said, standing taller. I claim asylum with these humans. This isn't over, Hana hissed. Your father will hear of your betrayal to our people. My father will hear of yours, Gia countered. After the Lumi had departed, everyone let out the breath they'd been holding. That was close. Mina sighed. Do you think she believed us about the evidence? She didn't, Day said. But she couldn't be certain. Sometimes doubt is our strongest weapon. Gia looked out the window as the Lumi ship took off. She'll be back, with more authority, more guards. Then we'd better get real evidence before that happens, Day said firmly, and contact Earth Command, ourselves. 6 months had passed since the confrontation with Hana. The small research station had become the center of an interstellar diplomatic incident. Earth Command had sent representatives. The Lumi High Council had sent investigators. For weeks, the station buzzed with officials from both species. In the end, justice prevailed. The evidence Day and his team gathered, records of the ship's landing pattern, Gia's medical scans showing traces of sedatives, and testimonies from the crew, proved Hana's guilt. The Lumi High Council stripped Hana of her diplomatic status and sentenced her to confinement. Now, on the very ice field where Gia had been abandoned, something very different was happening. Small heating units formed a circle, keeping the area comfortable despite the planet's natural chill. Humans from the research station stood on one side. On the other, a delegation of Lumi, including Gia's father, watched with curious expressions. Gia stood in the center, no longer disguised. Her purple skin gleamed in the sunlight. Beside her stood Day, nervous but proud in his formal Earth Command uniform. "Are you sure about this?" he whispered. Gia smiled. "More sure than I've ever been about anything." The ceremony that followed blended traditions from both worlds. Gia's father, initially shocked by her decision to stay with humans, had come to understand. After seeing the evidence of his wife's betrayal, he had begun questioning many things about Lumi society. "In our culture," Gia spoke clearly so everyone could hear, "we form bonds for advantage, for political gain. I have learned from humans that bonds can form from something else, from care given without expectation, from trust that grows in darkness." She turned to face Day. "You found me when I was nothing. Naked on ice, a stranger, alien to your world. You gave me warmth, protection, and something my people rarely speak of: love." Day took her hands in his. They had spent months learning about each other's worlds, finding ways to bridge the biological and cultural gaps between them. What started as rescue had grown into something neither could have imagined. "I found you in the cold," Day said, "but you brought warmth to my life. Before you, I was hiding here, running from disappointed dreams. You taught me that different doesn't mean wrong. That strength comes in many forms." The ceremony concluded with both human and Lumi traditions. The exchange of simple rings and the Lumi ritual of shared breath, symbolizing the mixing of life paths. "The council has approved your request," Gia's father announced afterward. "You will be the first official Lumi ambassador to Earth and the first—" He hesitated, the concept still strange to him. "The first of our kind to marry outside our species." Later, as the celebrations continued inside the station, Gia and Day slipped away to the observation dome. The ice field stretched before them, glittering under the stars. "Are you happy?" Day asked. "Happy is too simple a word," Gia replied. "In my language, we have a term, Kalari. It means finding yourself by losing your path." She looked at the spot where she had nearly died. "Hana thought she was ending my story. She didn't realize she was beginning a new one." "What happens next in this story?" Day asked, putting his arm around her shoulders. Gia leaned against him, still marveling at how natural it felt. "We build bridges, between worlds, between peoples, who think they're too different to understand each other." "Starting with us?" he said. "We already started," she reminded him. "Right here, on the ice." The research station, once just a lonely outpost, would soon become an official diplomatic hub. There would be challenges ahead, biological differences to navigate, cultural misunderstandings to smooth over. But looking at the ice field that had once been her deathbed and was now transformed into the beginning of a new life, Gia knew they would find a way. In the cold place where she had been left with nothing, she had found everything.